I hope you enjoyed this. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist at all. I hope you spend a lot of time on it. And it sounds like I'm going to do one, but it's not. It's actually recorded like, and it's Sir Walter Raleigh, of all people, you know. Um, and obviously, we all know Sir Walter Raleigh. He was an Englishman who was an explorer, went around the world. Anyway, and I think he ended up getting his head chopped off by the king. Funny old times, weren't they? But anyway, what he's not so famous for, he wrote a book. I think he wrote a few books. I can't afford any of them, not the original ones anyway. But ones I'm going to mention, which you'd be really interested in, and it's to do with this. I believe in UFOs and things what's gone amiss, because it's interesting because 500 years ago he wrote this, and it's a book. He wrote a few. I think one was called Religion, History, and Geography, or something like that. It's in Latin or something. But I mean, I've come across it and I've read it, bits what I can. I'm not a clever person, but I picked it out what I wanted to read. But if you get a chance, have a look. And in this book, it's old maps. And it's quite interesting because at the time in 1500, England were fighting Spanish and Portuguese and all sorts of countries, and although Europeans were fighting each other in the towns, and they're all menacing. Then there were different religions. I mentioned this because when it came to this what's in his book, he writes in his book, why 500 years ago, why are religious leaders around Europe at the time and the armies, even though they're fighting each other and all the religions wants to be number one, how come they all agreed to change geography, the names on geography, to suit? They all seem to get together and say, yeah, we'll change those names. And he emphasised a couple like Mount Sinai, maybe say that one, in Turkey. But in 500 years ago, that the name continued all the way across to Tibet. And he showed him on an ancient map where it was. It was just a simple line. That's how he recorded it. That's how it was recorded 500 years ago. And he names a few of these places in his books. And he was saying, how come everybody in them times, all these different countries and different religions, all got together and say, yeah, okay, we will change these names, even though we're fighting and killing each other. I don't agree with anything else, but we will change geography names. And because it's important, we have to say it's important, because if you change geography, the names on the map, the biblical names and ancient names, what's been wrote about, some ancient stories from mythological, what we think mythological, but maybe true, can never find them. It's all gone amiss. And people say, oh, it's the arcs here and the arcs there. But it probably is nowhere near where they said. It could be thousands of miles away, because according to Sir Walter Raleigh, in the book I was saying, Religion, History and Geography, he wrote a few more books, but according to those maps, it's clearly put Sinai, for one example, which I'll mention again, it clearly goes to Tibet. I mean, people talk about Ark landed in Ararat, but in other stories they talk about inside Mount Sinai. So wherever we say, just I'm pointing to Ark as an example, to say that Arks landed as they say and they changed the name 500 years ago, there's no way you can ever find it. There's no chance, and the chance are they probably would know where it was 500 years ago, and they've kept it to themselves. And let's be honest, to me, when I believe in God, but the Ark, to me, it shouts spaceship. Even though I believe in God, I still believe in God. I just think that there's a swap over somewhere. We get confused with it and the writings. and just gets disgruntled. But if you think about it, if that is the case, just say, because some writings it's Ararat, sometimes some writings it's in Mount Sinai, but just say it is in Mount Sinai. It may not be in Turkey, it could be in Tibet. You see, and I go back to this a bit more detail. Why I personally think it was in Tibet another day, but that's not just that. The whole system of changing names, or it went all right through the system geography, and 500 years ago. But why? We have to question ourselves. Why did they all get together and change it? You know, what are they hiding? You know, we know there's great patterns of UFO fighting it out in German cities and other cities around the world, but and so they probably are to get rid of that one. But what others have, the id, other ancient stories, not just religion, but ancient UFO landings and different sightings, have they changed? It makes you think. But have a look. So Walter Raleigh, ended up getting his head chopped off, unfortunately. So it didn't very well for him. But it's a good book. Obviously not going to go and buy it. I think I'd buy it if I could afford that. I'd buy a new car. But anyway, if you get a chance, have a peek. There's some pages. If you don't read Latin, the maps are clearly there. You can still probably go online and see it. I was lucky enough to see it firsthand, which is nice. Not the first edition though. But anyway, still same, isn't it, really? I don't know if the books, what's been reprinted now, would have the maps. That probably won't, you know. I have a feeling, I'm not being conspiracy theorist, but I have a feeling they've all been took out. You know, not because this story, I'm saying, it's not very popular, but it is true. Again, it is totally true. But it's, I mention it on this UFO site because if sites have appeared 500, 600, 800 years ago, and somebody of power, king, queen, whatever, the religious leader, got and think, I'm not sharing that. I don't want anybody to find it. And best way, instead of just picking up and moving it at the time, is change the name. And then eventually you can, you get technology, you can pick it up and move it to where you want it to go. But at that time, the easiest way, I mean, if you want to go from A to B and somebody changes the plaque on that road, you're never going to get there. Exactly the same. And that's what they've done 500 years ago. And obviously it wasn't just in Europe. I have a feeling they've probably done it everywhere, haven't they? You know, which is why. Be interesting to know. If you've got any thoughts on that, please let me know. If you get a chance to like or dislike, entirely up to you. But I hope you enjoyed this. It's totally true. So Walter Raleigh, if you get a chance to have a chat. Thank you. God bless.